WrestleMania is less than 3 weeks away, so let's get hype and count down each match next. WWE officially added 6 matches to the WrestleMania card in the last week, giving us 12 total matches so far. And while I'd expect 2 more, things are swinging into high gear, so let's count down from 12 to 1 for each of these matches for how hype they are. There is no formula for hype, it's just how pumped we're feeling to see each match, and we'll also assign a letter grade to each match, but no sense in hyping up the countdown anymore. Let's get right to it. At number 12, we have Seth Rollins versus Gunther. Yes, we'll start with an obvious F, because, what is this? So you wanted Rollins versus Breakker, and you wanted Gunther versus Rey Mysterio, and when you couldn't get either of these matchups, you just jammed these two together for the 2 available guys for no apparent reason. And you did that with having Gunther stop a Rollins stomp on Paul Heyman. We wanted that stomp. Why would Gunther do this? Does he just not like Rollins playing games with all the masked men? They have no one-on-one TV matches against each other, so this is just a thing that shouldn't be happening. If Rollins is in any sort of shape, it should be a great match. So since it is WrestleMania, I guess that makes a little bit of sense, but this match really didn't need to go down like this. At number 11 is the 5-man ladder match for the Intercontinental title between Penta, Dragon Lee, Javon Evans, Rusev, and JD McDonough. This also gets an F, even though it is going to be fun, and we've seen a bunch of mid-card title ladder matches through the years, especially at WrestleMania, but just like everything lately, we got here in the laziest and, quite frankly, least sensical way imaginable. Penta talking to Pierce before his title match against Kingston, and then saying he wanted a ladder match instead of, a one-on-one match, and then having qualifying matches on main event for the other spots. Well, yeah, main event. There were actually matches with stakes on main event and no one told us about this? This sounds like it was just made up at the last second to me. And if these matches happened on main event, that means they didn't even air yet, because we already know the results to this match, but main event airs on Thursdays on WWE's YouTube channel. So, I guess go back and watch that, as it'll be the most important main event of all time. Except for that thing that you already know the results. Well, since we only seem to get 4 matches in 2.5-hour shows, couldn't they have taken the time to add 1 more match for 10 minutes or so over the last few weeks instead? And since Rusev's last win on November 7th, he and McDonough are a combined 0-6 over the last 4.5 months. So I'm not sure they even deserved a chance to qualify. But Evans and Lee have really done some amazing work, so good for them to get to be on the WrestleMania card. At number 10 is Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio, and this gets a D-, and I'm not even sure how they could have messed this up even more. After a build-up that began before their fatal 4-way Intercontinental title match at last year's WrestleMania, this is the feud where the tension should actually be the highest of them all. And we got the slowest of drips of tension, leading to the explosion of Balor turning on the group by invoking Rey's name, and then even McDonough sticking with the crew to join the beatdown on Balor was pretty surprising. And now that Roxanne has even returned, she remained on Liv's side as well, so this really is a 4-on-1 kind of deal. But the week after the turn, all we got was Liv cutting a pre-tape promo on Balor instead of Dom. And then last week we got Dom trying to win back the IC title, and Balor of course came out to stop him from winning, but Dom still ended up getting away, even though McDonough of course took a coup de grace. And this week Balor finally said something in a pre-tape segment, but Dom didn't even make it onto the show, so what are we even doing here? At number 9 is Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley, which is just going to get a D. Well, at least they're showing up each week, but that's about all that we can say for it. Every single interaction has been completely underwhelming, as what seemed like having some possible real heat on social media just ends up being a big old ball of bleh on screen. From talking about their physiques and how much more one wants it than the other one wants it. And now we've just added the Job Squad with Michin and B-Fab. So yeah, this one's not looking so great here now, is it? We've now seen Rhea get it handed to her 2 times in a row since it is now 3-on-1, but this is where we need to let them really go at each other before the bell to try to salvage this thing. I'm just not sure it's gonna happen. At number 8 is Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams. It's also going to get a D. These guys have interacted plenty since Williams moved to the blue brand on the first SmackDown of 2026, and there's definitely something here, even if it's been on again, off again over these last 3 months. But I'll hand it to them for going with a logical set of opponents that could really be good. But they have really destroyed the hype by having Zayn win back the belt from Carmelo Hayes to make this matchup for the US title. It's just way too close to Mania to be messing with the run that Carmelo Hayes has been on with that US title. You'd think that they'd have learned from the other title that they messed with recently, but no, they doubled down instead to inflict maximum pain on the WWE Universe. Getting Hayes and or Dragunov back into this match will most likely salvage the damage a little bit, but it's now going to leave a sour taste in our mouths no matter what. Number 7 is AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch, and this is gonna get a C-. This is the only recent rematch on the card, which is surprising because it'd be great to have tensions boiling over in a few more places on the card to end some major feuds, but for now we'll have to settle for just AJ and Becky. But this feud has been more off than on since AJ won that title at the Elimination Chamber. AJ had a brief celebration right after the Chamber saying that she'd be a fighting champion, but she took a week off to see who'd win that gauntlet match to be the #1 contender. And only after AJ defended that title on March 16th did Becky briefly appear for the first time since the Chamber to toss AJ around for about 1 minute. Becky coaxed AJ into that rematch last week without any physical contact, of course, and then they both decided to take this week off. So while I'd love to be hyped for a big blow-off here, there's more of these two blowing off showing up than keeping those tensions high. At number 6 is Stephanie Vauquer versus Liv Morgan. This is going to get a C, and it's the second verse, same as the first, almost as AJ versus Becky. We knew of this match since before the Chamber, of course, so it had plenty of time to add a lot of substance, and it got off to a good start with Stephanie making Liv cry, but it became ice cold shortly thereafter. Perhaps they just didn't want to give Stephanie too many things to say. But the traditional approach hasn't worked that well either. Liv failed to stop Stephanie from beating Raquel, and then Stephanie brutalized Liv right before Dom's match, but that was just way too quick, happening in less than a minute. And this week was more about Roxanne returning than Liv doing it on her own. I don't know, I thought this would be number 1 or 2 on my list, but WWE just hasn't figured out for pretty much all of Stephanie's reign what to do with her, and that's just really disappointing. Number 5 is Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre. It's gonna get a C+. This is part 1 of just being annoyed at this being pretty decent. So many times I've said that McIntyre deserved to walk into WrestleMania with that WWE title, and he still does deserve that, but he knows how to make the most out of a bad situation. He and Fatu's entire episode-long fight 2 weeks ago was the best of any brawl between Mania combatants so far, and I don't think it can be beaten, as it's the only one that has truly been pretty unique. Had McIntyre held on to that title, you could have easily seen this match being the title match at BackLash and going on for a few months. I don't like that this is an unsanctioned match. It needs to be either a Falls Count Anywhere match or both, an Iron Man match based solely on that 3-hour fight, but regardless, this match is still going to be awesome. At number 4 is Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, and it's getting a B-, as this is part 2 of just being annoyed at this being pretty decent. I've also felt like a broken record saying that this is the best match, but the worst way to get here. But Orton is putting in so much incredible work with the voices in his head that all of us can't help but to keep cheering him and hope that he captures title number 15. That also means we're still sore over WWE's inability to make Rhodes even a little bit interesting, and that pep talk with Stephanie McMahon will be some sort of kick in the pants to shift his character yet again, just like how reports said that he was shifting his character leading up to the McIntyre title change. But I'm over that, so Rhodes and WWE Creative are completely at fault for not making this go to the top of the list where it deserves to be. So let's punt Rhodes out of here and let Randy cook, and yeah, I'm still saying that KO is the man on the phone. At number 3 is the Women's Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way with the Irresistible Forces, the Allies of Convenience, the Bella Twins, and Bayley and Lyra. It's getting a B+ from me. Maybe this is the one that I'm irrationally excited about, but this feud has been featured on pretty much every Raw and SmackDown in some way since Nia and Lash won those titles the night before the Elimination Chamber, which in today's WWE is a sight to behold considering the very limited card each and every night. In March alone, there were 6 matches across the 9 shows. Amazing! And with everyone interfering and fighting with each other on a daily basis, there was no choice but to throw this combustible situation together in one big match to see how things will shake out. Although Rio, the Kabukis, and Julia and Kiana won't be in this match, props to all 7 of these teams for making this division the hottest one in 2026. At number 2 is CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. It's gonna get a B+ here. There's actually a lot that I don't like about this one. Punk bringing up Sika, Reigns just going back into the ring when Punk told him to do so, the lack of physicality until Punk was called old as the thing that broke the ice here, and most of all, the insertion of the Usos when, as I keep saying, Reigns needs to prove that he can do this on his own for a change. But these two are 2 of the 3 biggest stars in the game by far, and since neither of them has been forced to shift characters, like Randy Orton was forced to do so, their aura is simply out of this world, and you, as a fan, get to cheer whoever you like more. What a novel idea. That would have been great for Rhodes versus Cena last year. And now that both men have taken power bumps through the announce table on successive weeks, we are finally ready to go after Reigns takes another week off on Monday, naturally. And at number 1 is Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar. It's getting an A. They did it, guys. They listened to the Royal Rumble crowd and the WWE Universe and gave us the match that we wanted. And when Femi made Lesnar fall from grace a couple weeks ago, this has all the makings of a slobber knocker with 2 big meaty men bumping meat. I'm still a little perplexed that this is the feud where Triple H felt the need to step in to stop a brawl when presumably he should also be doing that for the WWE and World Heavyweight title feuds. It's not like the old adage of don't touch until the bell rings applies here, as we've seen them fight in the Royal Rumble itself with Lesnar eliminating Femi and also that thunderous fall from grace. Had they thrown down on Monday, I think this would have gotten an A+, but we still have 2 more chances to get there. With only 4 of 12 matches making it even into the B range, I don't think we're looking at a good, let alone an all-time great WrestleMania, but I suppose we have 3 more SmackDowns and 2 more Raws to get us there. But yeah, I'm not counting on it. But speaking of counting, if you missed this week's Stop the 10 Count where I discussed 2 more title changes and the whole Heyman-verse, be sure to go right on over here to check that out. So until next time, I am the SportsZu, and this is a podcast that needs a new name.